may transfer her house overnight. That had to be planned, right?
Have you ever walked up to your own front door and felt like a stranger? I didn't think that was possible. Not until the night my key stopped working. It was around 6:40 p.m. I remember because I'd just checked my phone in the elevator, debating whether I had enough energy to cook or if I'd just order something and collapse on the couch. Normal thoughts. Ordinary. Safe. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I stepped out, heels clicking against the hallway floor, grocery bag digging into my fingers, same routine, same door, same life. And then, click. Nothing. I frowned, adjusted my grip, and tried again. Click. Still nothing. At first, it didn't even feel real, like when an app freezes and you instinctively tap the screen harder, as if that'll fix it. Come on, I muttered, pushing the key in deeper, turning harder. It wouldn't budge. That's when I noticed it. The sound, muffled at first, then clearer, laughter, inside. I froze. Not the TV, not music, voices. In my house. My grip tightened around the grocery bag until the plastic stretched thin. For a second, I just stood there, staring at the door like it might explain itself. Did someone break in? Did I forget something? Did I? The lock suddenly turned from the inside. The door opened. And just like that, everything shifted. Standing there, framed in the warm light of my living room, was my younger sister, Lily. Barefoot, relaxed, like she'd been there all day. She blinked at me once, then tilted her head slightly, like I was the unexpected one. "Oh," she said casually, leaning against the door. "You're back early." Back early. Let that sink in. I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. My brain was still trying to catch up to what my eyes were seeing. Because behind her, I saw my couch, my coffee table, my blanket draped exactly how I'd left it that morning. But something felt off. There were extra shoes by the entrance, not mine. And the smell. Cooking. Familiar. Comforting. My mother's cooking. A cold, slow realization began to crawl up my spine. "Lily," I said carefully, my voice quieter than I expected. "Why are you here?" She didn't move. Didn't step aside. Didn't invite me in. Instead, she just gave this small, unreadable smile. And then, from deeper inside the house, I heard my mother's voice. "Is she there?" Footsteps followed. Measured, unhurried. And then my parents appeared behind her. My mom, Mary Ann. Calm, composed. My dad, David, not even looking directly at me. Not one of them looked surprised. Not one of them asked why I was home. That's when the question hit me, the one that didn't make sense, the one that shouldn't even exist. Why are they acting like I'm the one who doesn't belong here? I shifted my weight, still standing outside, still holding groceries like I'd just come back from a normal day. "Can someone explain," I said slowly, "why I can't get into my own house?" There was a pause. A strange one. Not confused. Not defensive. Prepared. My mother stepped forward slightly, her expression soft but not warm. Controlled. "We fixed the paperwork," she said. Paperwork? What paperwork? I felt my chest tighten, not from panic, just pressure. Like something invisible had just been placed on top of me. "What are you talking about?" I asked. And that's when she said it. Calmly, clearly, like it was already done. "It's her house now." Her. I didn't need to ask who. Still, I did. "What?" My mom glanced briefly at Lily, then back at me. "It's Lily's house now, Ava." Silence. No one moved. No one explained. And here's the part that people don't understand when I tell this story. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't even step inside. I just stood there, feeling something settle into place. Not confusion. Not anger. Something colder. Something quieter. I nodded once, shifted the grocery bag in my hand, and said, "Okay." Then I turned around and walked away from my own house. 3 days later, when they opened that door again, everything was different. 3 days. That's how long I disappeared. No calls, no texts, no showing up at work, no explanation. If you're wondering what I was doing, good, because that's exactly what they were wondering too. And for the first time in my life, I didn't rush to fix it. I didn't rush to explain myself. I didn't rush to make them comfortable. Instead, I sat in silence. Not the peaceful kind. Not the kind you see in movies where someone finds themselves. No. This was the kind of silence where every memory starts replaying, but differently. Sharpened, distorted, honest. I stayed in a hotel across town. Nothing fancy, just clean, quiet, anonymous. The kind of place where no one asks questions and no one cares how long you stay. The first night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing the same clothes from earlier, staring at my phone. No messages. Not from my mom. Not from my dad. Not even from Lily. That should have been the first confirmation. Not confusion. Not concern. Just absence. Like I'd already been removed. Let me ask you something. If you suddenly took over someone's house, wouldn't you expect a reaction? A fight? A phone call? Something? But they didn't reach out. Because to them, this wasn't sudden. This was planned. And deep down, I think I knew that the moment my key didn't turn, by the second day, the shock wore off. And something else took its place. Clarity, cold, structured, almost clinical clarity. I opened my laptop, logged into my accounts, started pulling everything up, transfers, emails, documents, every single thing tied to the last 6 months. Because here's what didn't make sense. I paid off their debt. All of it. Credit cards, personal loans, late payments, even that lingering mortgage balance they swore was almost handled. $187,000. Gone. And I didn't hesitate when I did it. That's the part that kept echoing in my head. I didn't hesitate. Not when my mom called me crying at 11:48 p.m. Not when my dad got on the phone and said, "We're going to lose everything." Not even when I noticed the numbers didn't fully add up. I trusted them. Completely. So how does that turn into this? By the afternoon of day 2, I found the first crack. An email, subject line, ownership transfer confirmation pending finalization. My stomach dropped. Date? 2 days before I paid everything off. Let that sit for a second. 2 days before, I opened it. Read every line slowly. Carefully. Legally worded, dense, easy to skim past if you weren't looking for something specific. But now, I was looking, and there it was. A clause buried halfway through. Property reassignment tied to debt consolidation agreements. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen, not shocked anymore, not even angry. Just aware. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a mistake. This was structured, deliberate, signed by me. Except I didn't remember signing anything about my house, which means one of two things happened. Either I didn't read what I signed, or I was never meant to understand it. And suddenly, every small moment from the past 6 months started shifting into place. The rushed paperwork. My mom saying, "It's just standard processing." My dad avoiding eye contact. Lily being busy every time finances came up. It wasn't chaos. It was coordination. By the third day, I wasn't asking what happened anymore. I knew. The real question had changed. What was I going to do about it? I closed my laptop slowly, reached for my phone, scrolled to a number I hadn't used in years, and pressed call. As it rang, I stood up, walked over to the window, and looked out at the city below. Calm, still, controlled. The call connected. "Hi," I said evenly. "I need to review a contract, and I need to know exactly how far this goes." Pause. Then, "Okay," the voice replied. "Start from the beginning." I smiled slightly. Not because anything was funny, but because for the first time since that door didn't open, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. And 3 days later, when I stood in front of that house again, I wasn't alone. This didn't start with the house. It started with a phone call I almost ignored. It was 11:48 p.m. I remember the exact time because I stared at my phone for a full 10 seconds before answering. My mom's name lit up the screen, and something about it felt off. You know that feeling when nothing has happened yet, but your body already knows something's wrong? I almost let it go to voicemail. Almost, but I didn't. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice neutral as I pressed the phone to my ear. "What's going on?" Silence. Not the normal kind. The kind that breathes. Then, a shaky inhale. "Ava," my mom's voice cracked. I didn't know who else to call. That was all it took. Every wall I had up, gone instantly. I sat up straighter in bed. What happened? And then it came out in pieces. Debt. Missed payments. Final notices. Words like default, collections, and "we're running out of time." Behind her, I could hear movement. My dad pacing, maybe. A cabinet closing. Low murmuring. But he didn't take the phone. Not yet. "How bad is it?" I asked. Another pause. Too long. "Ava, we might lose the house." That sentence hit differently. Because growing up, that house was everything. It wasn't just where we lived. It was stability. Proof that my parents had built something real. And now it was slipping. I swung my legs off the bed, already reaching for my laptop. "Okay," I said, steady. "Tell me everything." The build-up pieces that didn't fit. Over the next hour, the story came together. Or at least, a version of it did. Credit cards maxed out. A personal loan they hadn't told me about. Refinancing that didn't go through. Unexpected medical bills. It was overwhelming. Messy. Urgent. But underneath all of it, there were gaps. Small ones. Easy to ignore if you weren't looking too closely. Like numbers that didn't fully line up. Dates that felt slightly off. Amounts that changed depending on how the question was asked. At one point, I paused. "Wait," I said slowly. "If the mortgage is behind, how did you cover the last 2 payments?" Silence. Then my mom answered quickly. "We shuffled things around." Shuffled. I didn't push. Not then. Because emotion was louder than logic in that moment. And that was the first mistake. The decision. By 1:12 a.m., I had everything open in front of me. Bank accounts, savings, investment portfolios, years of work, years of saying no to things, trips I didn't take, time I didn't spend, all of it sitting there, available. "Okay," I said finally. My mom went quiet. "I'll take care of it." Her breath hitched. "Ava, no, you don't have to." "I know," I cut in gently, "but I can." And that was the truth. I could. That's what I'd built my life around, being able to handle things. Fix things. Be the one people relied on. My dad finally spoke then, his voice low. "This is a lot, sweetheart." "I know. We'll pay you back." I didn't even respond to that part, because we all knew they wouldn't. The transfer. The next morning, I didn't hesitate. No second guessing, no delay. I made the calls, authorized the transfers, paid everything. Line by line, account by account, $187,000. Gone. Just like that. And here's the part that matters. I felt good about it. Relieved. Like I'd just prevented something terrible. Like I'd done the right thing. My mom called me crying again, but this time it was gratitude. "You saved us," she said. My dad echoed it. "You have no idea what this means." And Lily? She texted me for the first time in weeks. "You're actually incredible. Seriously." That should have stood out more than it did. But I let it pass. Because everything felt resolved. Clean. Handled. The first red flag. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my place, unannounced. That wasn't unusual, but her energy was. Focused, efficient, Ava, we just need to finalize some paperwork, she said, stepping inside like she'd already been invited. What kind of paperwork? I asked. Just documentation for the debt clearance, she replied quickly. Formalities. It'll make everything official. That word again. Official. I nodded slowly. Okay. She set a folder down on my kitchen table. Thick. Tabs sticking out. Highlighted sections. Prepared. Where did all this come from? I asked. The bank helped organize it, she said smoothly. It's standard. Standard. Another word that should have made me pause. But instead, I flipped it open. Pages of legal language. Dense, structured, familiar enough to feel safe, but not familiar enough to fully understand at a glance. Do I need a lawyer to look at this? I asked casually. And for just a second, my mom hesitated. Then she smiled. Soft, reassuring. Oh, honey, it's just routine. If we delay, it could complicate the settlements. Complicate. Delay. Risk. All the right pressure points. I exhaled slowly, picked up the pen, and signed subtle shift. Looking back now, there was a moment. A very small one. Right after I finished signing the last page, my mom closed the folder quickly. Too quickly. Like she didn't want me to reread anything. Then she stood up, relieved, but not emotional. Not like before. Different. Controlled. I'll take care of the rest, she said. And just like that, she was gone. End of chapter cliffhanger. That night, I got an email. Short. Simple. Easy to overlook. Subject line. Confirmation received ownership documentation processing. I stared at it for a long time. Ownership? Of what? I frowned slightly, then shook my head. It's probably nothing, I muttered. And I closed the email. I didn't open it. I didn't question it. I didn't follow up. Because at that point, I still believed I had just helped my family. I didn't realize that was the moment everything stopped being mine. The first time I realized something was wrong, I ignored it. Let me ask you something. What's the difference between intuition and denial? Because looking back now, I can point to the exact moment my instincts tried to warn me. And I shut them down. It started small. So small, it almost felt ridiculous to question. 3 days after I signed the paperwork, I called my mom. Just to check in. Normal, right? Except the conversation wasn't. Hey, I said, tucking my phone between my shoulder and ear while scrolling through emails. Just wanted to make sure everything cleared okay. She replied quickly. Yes, everything's handled. Handled. That word again? Too clean. Too final. Good, I said slowly. Did you get confirmation from the bank? Pause. A beat too long. We're still finalizing some things. I frowned slightly. That's not what you just said. Another pause, then a soft laugh. Oh, you know how these things are. Technicalities. Technicalities. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling now. Mom, I said, more directly this time. What exactly did I sign? Silence. And then, Ava, she said gently, you're overthinking this. And just like that, the conversation ended. Not abruptly, not aggressively, but redirected. Smoothed over. Closed. The shift you can't ignore. After that call, things started to feel different. Not dramatically. Subtly. Like walking into a room where everything looks the same, but something's been moved just slightly out of place. My dad stopped calling. Not completely, but enough to notice. When he did, conversations were short. Surface level. No mention of money. No mention of the house. No mention of anything that mattered. And Lily? Lily changed the most. Suddenly, she was everywhere. Commenting on my social media, texting me randomly, even calling me once, which she never did. You've been working too hard, she said casually during one call. You should think about downsizing or something, less stress. I laughed lightly. I'm fine, Lily. I'm just saying, she continued almost too casually, You don't really need all that space, do you? That made me pause. Not because of what she said, but because of how she said it, like it wasn't a suggestion, like it was an observation, a conclusion she'd already reached. Tension builds. A week later, I went to my parents' house, unannounced. I didn't plan it, it just happened. I was driving home from work, past their street, and before I could overthink it, I turned. The house looked the same. Of course it did. Nothing dramatic had changed. But as soon as I walked in, I felt it again. That shift. That quiet, underlying tension. "Hey," my mom called from the kitchen, her tone bright but not surprised. That was the first thing. She wasn't surprised. "Hi," I replied, stepping inside slowly. My dad was in the living room, flipping through channels. He glanced at me, smiled, then looked back at the TV. No questions, no curiosity, just acknowledgement. "Where's Lily?" I asked, setting my bag down. "In my room," my mom answered. "Your room? Since when?" I walked down the hallway, my steps slower now, more deliberate. The door was slightly open. I pushed it gently, and there she was, sitting cross-legged on the bed, surrounded by papers, stacks of them, organized, highlighted, detailed. She looked up, and for a split second, something crossed her face. Not guilt, not surprise, recognition. Like she knew this moment would come. "Oh," she said lightly. "Hey." I glanced at the papers. "What's all this?" "Just helping mom organize stuff," she replied quickly, gathering a few sheets into a pile. Too quickly. "What kind of stuff?" "Financial things," she said vaguely. "You wouldn't be interested." That was new. Since when was I not interested in financial things? I stepped closer. One page caught my eye. Just a glimpse. But enough. I saw my name, typed, formal, followed by an address. My address. My stomach tightened. "Can I see that?" I asked. Lily's hand moved instinctively, covering the page. "It's nothing important," she said, her tone still light, but her posture wasn't. Protective. That's when my mom's voice cut in from behind me. "Ava, can you help me in the kitchen for a second?" I turned. She was standing in the hallway now, watching, waiting. I hesitated, then nodded, and followed her. The turning point. In the kitchen, she handed me a glass of water. Unnecessary. Stalling. "You've been working too much," she said, avoiding eye contact. "Mom," I interrupted, setting the glass down untouched. "What's going on?" "Nothing's going on," she replied quickly. "That's not true." She sighed. Soft. Controlled. "Ava, everything is fine. You helped us. Things are stable now." "Then why does it feel like I'm the only one who doesn't know something?" That landed. I could see it in her expression. Just for a second. But then, it was gone. Replaced with that same calm composure. "You're imagining things," she said. And that was it. Conversation over. Again. Escalation. That night, I couldn't shake it. The papers. My name. My address. The way Lily covered it. The way my mom redirected everything. So I did something I hadn't done before. I checked. Property records. Online. Public access. Simple. I typed in my address. Waited. Loading. And then nothing. No updates. Everything still showed under my name. I exhaled slowly. "See?" I muttered to myself. "You're overthinking." But even as I said it, it didn't feel true. Because something was happening. I just couldn't see it yet. Chapter ending cliffhanger. The next evening, my mom called. "Dinner tomorrow," she said. "All of us." All of us. That phrasing stuck. "Okay," I replied slowly. Before hanging up, she added, "Lily will be there too." I almost laughed. Of course she will. But right before the call ended, I heard something in the background. A voice. Lily's. Soft, but clear enough You'll understand soon. The line went dead. And for the first time, I stopped telling myself I was overthinking. Because deep down, I knew. I just didn't know how bad it really was. The day I couldn't open my own front door, everything made sense. What would you do? If the place you felt safest suddenly decided you didn't belong? No warning. No conversation. Just replaced. Because that's what it felt like. Not stolen. Not lost. Replaced. The return, but different. When I stood outside my house that evening, the same moment you saw at the beginning, I didn't know everything yet. But I knew enough to feel that something irreversible had already happened. The key not turning, that wasn't the beginning. That was confirmation. And when Lily opened the door, barefoot, comfortable, at ease, that was the answer to a question I hadn't fully formed yet. She wasn't visiting. She wasn't helping. She was living there. Inside, but not welcome. I didn't step inside right away. That detail matters. Because instinctively, your body knows when a space stops being yours. Even before your mind catches up. Why are you here? I asked her. But the real question was, why are you acting like I'm not supposed to be? She didn't answer directly. She just stepped back slightly, opening the door wider, not inviting, allowing. There's a difference. And that difference hit hard. I stepped in slowly. Every movement felt observed, measured, like I was entering someone else's home. My eyes scanned everything. The couch shifted slightly. New throw pillows. Not mine. A candle burning on the coffee table. Vanilla. I don't like vanilla. And then the hallway door. My office. Closed. I always left it open. Always. A small detail. But in that moment, it felt loud. The confrontation. Can someone explain what's going on? I asked, turning to face all three of them now. My voice was calm. Too calm. My mom stepped forward, composed, like she'd rehearsed this. We fixed the paperwork, she said. There it was again. Paperwork. That word had followed me for weeks. And now, it landed. Heavily. What paperwork? I asked. She didn't hesitate. The ownership documents. My chest tightened. Not sharply, slowly, like something pressing inward. What ownership documents? A pause. Then, it's Lily's house now. The reveal layer by layer. Silence. You'd expect shouting here, right? Anger, confusion, something loud. But that's not what happened. Because in that moment, everything clicked. The email, the papers in Lily's room, the rushed signatures, the strange conversations, the distance. It wasn't chaos. It was coordination. You used my payment, I said slowly, the realization forming as I spoke, to restructure everything. My mom nodded slightly. Yes. And the documents I signed included the transfer, she finished. Clean, simple, like explaining a completed task. I looked at my dad. He still wouldn't meet my eyes. Did you know? I asked him. A long pause. Then, yes. That was the only word he gave me. One word. And somehow, that hurt more than everything else combined. The justification. Lily finally spoke. You weren't using it fully anyway, she said, gesturing lightly around the house. It makes more sense this way. More sense. To who? You have a stable job, she continued. You can live anywhere. I needed something permanent. Needed. I let out a small breath. Almost a laugh. But not quite. So, you took it, I said. She tilted her head slightly. We didn't take anything. You signed it. The psychological shift. That line, that's the one that mattered. Because technically, she wasn't wrong. I did sign. I just didn't understand what I was signing. And they knew that. Every part of this had been structured around that one fact. Trust. Exploited. Legally. Carefully. Completely. The quiet decision. And here's the part that confuses people the most. I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I didn't demand anything. I just looked around one more time, took it in. Every change, every shift, every detail that proved this wasn't temporary. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was done. Final. You should have told me, I said quietly. My mom's expression softened, but not with guilt. With something else? Relief. We knew you'd react emotionally, she said. Emotionally. That word almost made me smile. Because in that moment, I wasn't emotional at all. I was clear. Completely clear. The exit. I adjusted the grocery bag in my hand, still holding it, still standing near the door. Like I'd never fully entered. Okay, I said. That's it. Just one word. Lily frowned slightly. Confused. Okay, she repeated. I nodded. Okay. And then I turned, walked out, no hesitation, no looking back, just left. The realization outside. The moment the door closed behind me, everything shifted again. Not inside the house. Inside me, because now there was no confusion, no missing pieces, no unanswered questions. They had taken my house, legally, intentionally, and they believed that was the end of it. Chapter ending, major cliffhanger. But here's what they didn't realize. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't broken. And I definitely wasn't done. Because as I walked down that driveway, there was only one thought in my mind. They think this is over. 3 days later, when I came back, I wasn't alone. And this time, I wasn't asking questions. 3 days later, when they opened the door. 3 days. That's how long it took for everything to shift back. Not emotionally, not symbolically. Legally, precisely. Irreversibly. The return. When I stood in front of the house again, it looked exactly the same. Same driveway, same windows, same quiet suburban stillness. Nothing about it suggested what had happened inside, or what was about to. But this time, I wasn't holding groceries. I wasn't tired from work. And I wasn't alone. Standing beside me was Daniel Harper, 41 contract attorney, calm, sharp, and very, very precise. Next to him, a uniformed civil enforcement officer. Not dramatic, not aggressive, just official, documented. Final. You ready? Daniel asked quietly. I nodded once, then I knocked. The door opens again. Footsteps approached from inside. Slower this time. More cautious. The door opened, and there she was. Lily. Same spot. Same house. Different energy. Because the moment she saw me, and more importantly, who I was standing with, her expression changed. Not confusion. Recognition. Immediate. What's this? She asked, her voice tightening slightly. I didn't answer right away. I just held her gaze. Calm. Steady. Controlled. Then Daniel stepped forward, holding out a folder. Lily Reynolds? He asked. She hesitated. Yes. You've been formally served notice of a legal dispute regarding fraudulent misrepresentation and unlawful property transfer. Silence. Heavy. Immediate. Behind her, my mom appeared. Then my dad. And just like before, they all gathered in the same space. But this time, they weren't in control of it. Daniel didn't raise his voice. Didn't rush. He spoke clearly. During the debt consolidation process, he began, Ava Reynolds was presented with documents that included a property reassignment clause. However, he paused. Let it settle. Those terms were not clearly disclosed, and evidence suggests intentional concealment and misrepresentation. My mom stepped forward quickly. That's not true. Daniel didn't even look at her. We have time-stamped communications, financial records, and recorded conversations indicating that Miss Reynolds was led to believe she was signing standard debt clearance documentation. That was the moment. The shift. Because now, everything that had been hidden in complexity was being laid out in clarity. I added quietly, You planned it before I even made the payment. No one responded. Because they couldn't. The evidence. Daniel opened the folder. Page after page. Printed. Organized. Precise. Email correspondence dated 2 days prior to fund transfer, he continued. Internal discussions referencing ownership reassignment. Audio confirmation of withheld disclosure. My dad finally spoke. Low. Weak. We didn't think it would. Hold up? Daniel finished. Or get challenged. Silence. Again. My mom looked at me then. Really looked. For the first time since all of this started, Ava, she said, softer now. We're family. There it was. That word, the one that had been used to justify everything. I held her gaze, and this time, I didn't feel pressure, or guilt, or hesitation, just clarity. That's why I trusted you, I said. No anger, no raised voice, just truth. And somehow, that landed harder than anything else. The officer stepped forward slightly. Effective immediately, he said. This property is under legal review. Occupancy rights are suspended pending investigation. Lily's composure cracked. What does that mean? She asked quickly. It means, Daniel replied, you don't legally control this property right now. My mom's voice sharpened. You can't just throw us out. No, Daniel said calmly, but you also can't claim ownership until this is resolved. Which meant one thing. Everything they thought they had secured was gone. Just like that. What happened next? The investigation moved quickly. Faster than they expected. Because this wasn't vague. It wasn't emotional. It was documented. Structured. Provable. Within weeks, the property transfer was legally invalidated. The signed documents were ruled unenforceable due to misrepresentation. My parents were held liable for damages and legal costs. And Lily? Her claim to the house disappeared entirely. Not gradually. Not partially. Completely. Social and personal fallout. Word spread. Quietly at first. Then, not so quietly. Extended family got involved. Questions were asked. Sides were taken. And for the first time, my parents weren't seen as victims. They were seen as participants. Lily moved out. Not into another house. Into a small apartment. Alone. No financial safety net this time. My dad stopped calling completely. My mom tried. A few times. Messages. Voicemails. Short. Careful. Unanswered. Not out of anger. Just finality. A month later, I stood inside the house again. My house. Legally. Fully. Quiet. Empty. Most of their things were gone. But not everything. A few small traces remained. A shifted chair. A faint scent of vanilla. I walked slowly through each room. Not rushing. Not reclaiming. Just observing. Because it didn't feel the same. And maybe it wasn't supposed to. I stopped at the front door. Looked at the lock. Then down at the new keys in my hand. Different. Solid. Certain. I replaced the lock that afternoon. Not out of fear. Out of closure. As the final click settled into place, I paused for a moment. Not thinking about what I lost. Not even thinking about what I got back. Just one clear realization. It was never about the house. It was about what they believed I would accept. I opened the door once more. Stepped inside. And this time, it didn't feel uncertain. It didn't feel taken. It felt resolved. I closed the door behind me. And that was the end of it. Have you ever tried to unlock your own front door and felt like the house itself was rejecting you? Because that's how it started. Not with a fight. Not with an argument. Not even with a warning. Just a key that suddenly didn't work. Click. Nothing. I remember standing there, staring at the lock, like it had personally decided I didn't belong anymore. It was 6:40 p.m. I'd just gotten home from work. My hands still smelled like the cheap plastic handles of grocery bags digging into my fingers. My feet hurt. My head hurt. It was a normal day. Until it wasn't. I tried the key again. Click. Still nothing. Come on, I muttered under my breath, twisting harder this time. No movement. And then I heard something. At first, I thought it was the TV. But then it got clearer. Laughter. Inside. Not just one voice. Multiple. Comfortable. Familiar. I froze. Because here's the thing. When you live alone, you know the sounds your house makes. And that wasn't normal. My grip tightened on the grocery bag. The plastic stretched, threatening to tear. My heart didn't race, not yet. It just slowed. Like my body was trying to process something it didn't understand. Then, the lock turned from the inside, and the door opened. Standing there, like she'd always belonged, was my younger sister, Lily. Barefoot, relaxed. Leaning against the doorframe like this was just another ordinary evening. She blinked at me once, tilted her head slightly, and said, "Oh, you're back early." Back early. Let that sink in. I didn't answer, because my brain was still catching up. Because behind her, I could see my living room, my couch, my blanket, everything exactly where I left it that morning. Except, it wasn't. There were shoes by the door. Not mine. A bag on the chair. Not mine. And the smell? Cooking. Something warm. Something familiar. Something I hadn't smelled in this house in years. My mom's cooking. That's when something cold started creeping up my spine. "Lily," I said slowly, my voice quieter than I expected. "Why are you here?" She didn't move. Didn't step aside. Didn't invite me in. She just smiled. Small, controlled. And then, from deeper inside the house, "Is she there?" My mom's voice. Footsteps followed. Measured. Unhurried. And then my parents appeared behind her. My mom, Marianne, calm, composed, like nothing was wrong. My dad, David, avoiding eye contact. Like he already knew this moment was coming and didn't want to be part of it. Not one of them looked surprised to see me. Not one of them asked why I was home. And that's when it hit me. Not fully, but enough to feel it. Why are they acting like I'm the one who doesn't belong here? I adjusted the grocery bag in my hand, suddenly aware of how out of place I looked. Standing outside, at my own door. "Can someone explain," I said slowly, "why I can't get into my house?" There was a pause, but not confusion. Not hesitation. Prepared. My mom stepped forward slightly, her expression soft but controlled. "We fixed the paperwork," she said. Paperwork. That word again. Even then, it felt familiar. Like something I'd already heard, but hadn't paid attention to. "What paperwork?" I asked. My voice didn't shake, but something inside me shifted. Because deep down, I already knew this wasn't going to be simple. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced briefly at Lily, then back at me, and said, "It's her house now." Silence. Heavy. Immediate. I stared at her. Then at Lily. Then back at the house behind them. "My house?" I asked. No one corrected me. No one softened it. No one explained. "It's Lily's house now, Ava." And here's the part no one ever expects when I tell this story. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't demand anything. Because in that moment, something clicked. Not emotionally. Logically. Every small thing from the past few weeks shifted. Rearranged. Made sense. The paperwork. The rushed signatures. The strange conversations. The distance. This wasn't sudden. This was built, planned, executed. And I had signed right in the middle of it. I looked past them one more time. At the house, at the space that used to feel like mine, and realized it already wasn't. "You should have told me," I said quietly. My mom's expression softened slightly, but not with guilt. With relief. "We knew you'd react emotionally," she replied. Emotionally. That word almost made me smile, because in that moment, I wasn't emotional at all. I was clear. Completely clear. I nodded once, shifted the grocery bag in my hand, and said, "Okay, that's it. Just, okay." Lily frowned slightly. Confused. "Okay," she repeated. I didn't answer. I just turned around, walked down the driveway, and left. No hesitation, no looking back. Because the moment that door closed behind me, I understood something they didn't. They thought they had taken everything, but they had no idea. What I was about to do next. This didn't start with the house, it started with a phone call I almost ignored. Let me take you back. Because nothing about what happened at that door makes sense until you understand what happened before it. 6 months earlier, 11:48 p.m. That's when my phone rang. I remember staring at the screen, half asleep, debating whether to answer. My mom, calling that late? That alone was unusual. And something about it, something quiet but sharp, told me this wasn't going to be a normal conversation. I almost ignored it. I really did. But I didn't. "Hey," I said, my voice still thick with sleep. "What's going on?" Silence. Then, a shaky breath. "Ava." My mom's voice cracked. I didn't know who else to call. And just like that, I was awake. Fully, instantly. I sat up in bed, heart steady but alert. What happened? At first, she couldn't even say it clearly. It came out in pieces, fragments, like she was trying to hold it together while everything slipped through. "We're behind on payments. They're calling every day." I thought we could manage it, but then the word that changed everything. Debt. Behind her, I could hear movement. My dad, pacing, muttering under his breath. But he didn't take the phone. "Not yet." "How bad is it?" I asked. That question hung in the air longer than it should have. Long enough to tell me this wasn't small. "Ava," she whispered, "we might lose the house." And there it was. That house. The one I grew up in. The one that meant stability, security, everything they had built. Gone? No, that wasn't an option. I swung my legs off the bed, already reaching for my laptop. "Okay," I said, my voice shifting, sharpening. "Tell me everything. The numbers and the gaps." For the next hour, I listened. Carefully, systematically. Amounts, balances, missed payments, loans I didn't even know existed. At one point, I stopped typing. "Wait," I said slowly. "Where did this personal loan come from?" My mom hesitated. "We needed it at the time." "For what?" Pause. "Just expenses." Just expenses. That answer didn't sit right, but I let it go. Because emotion was louder than logic in that moment. And that matters. Because when you care about someone, you don't interrogate, you respond. And that's exactly what I did. The pressure builds. By 12:37 a.m., everything was on the table. Or at least, everything they chose to show me. Credit cards maxed. Mortgage behind. Late fees stacking. Collections looming. It was overwhelming. Messy. Urgent. But underneath all of it, there was something else. Something quieter. Details that didn't fully connect. Numbers that felt adjusted. Rounded. Convenient. At one point, I asked, "If it's this bad, how did you make the last 2 mortgage payments?" Silence. Then, we shuffled things around. Shuffled. I remember staring at my screen after she said that, because that wasn't an answer. That was a placeholder. But again, I didn't push, because the bigger picture felt more important. Fix the problem first. Ask questions later. That was always my pattern. And they knew it. The decision that changed everything. By 1:12 a.m., I had a number. $187,000. That's what it would take to clear everything. Completely. No loose ends. No lingering threats. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. That number wasn't impossible for me, but it wasn't small either. It represented years of discipline, sacrifice, saying no to things most people say yes to, trips I skipped, time I traded, energy I burned, all of it, sitting in accounts I rarely touched. And now, it had a purpose. Ava, my mom said softly, we'll figure something out. I'll take care of it, I said. Silence. Then, no, you don't have to. I know, I interrupted gently, but I can. And that was it. Decision made. No hesitation. No conditions. Just action. My dad finally spoke then. Quiet. Almost reluctant. This is a lot. I know. We'll pay you back. That part, I ignored. Not because I believed it, but because it didn't matter. This wasn't a transaction. It was family. Or at least, that's what I thought. The transfer. The next morning, I moved fast. No delays. No second opinions. I made the calls. Authorized the transfers. Verified accounts. Signed digital approvals. One by one, every debt disappeared. Just like that. $187,000. Gone. And I remember exactly how I felt when it was done. Relieved. Not stressed. Not regretful. Relieved. Like I had just prevented something irreversible. Like I had done what I was supposed to do. My mom called me crying again. But this time, gratitude. You saved us, she said. My dad echoed it. You have no idea what this means. And Lily? She texted me, out of nowhere. After weeks of silence, you're actually incredible, seriously. I stared at that message for a second longer than I should have. Because Lily didn't say things like that. Not to me. Not ever. But I let it go. Because everything felt resolved. Clean. Handled. Finished. The first shift. 2 days later, my mom showed up at my house. Unannounced. That wasn't unusual. But something about her energy was focused. Prepared. Like she wasn't visiting. She was there for a reason. Ava, she said, stepping inside, already holding a folder. We just need to finalize some paperwork. There it was again. Paperwork. What kind? I asked. Just documentation, she replied quickly. Standard process. It makes everything official. Official. Another word that should have slowed me down. But instead, I nodded. Okay. She placed the folder on my table. Thick. Organized. Tabs. Highlights. Prepared in a way that felt intentional. Do I need a lawyer for this? I asked casually. And for just a second, she hesitated. Then smiled. Oh, honey, it's routine. Routine. I picked up the pen and I signed. End of part 2. Cliffhanger. And here's the part that matters most. Right after I signed the last page, my mom closed the folder. Quickly. Too quickly. Like she didn't want me to read it again. I'll take care of the rest, she said. And just like that, she was gone. That night, I got an email. Short. Simple. Easy to ignore. Subject line. Ownership transfer confirmation pending finalization. I looked at it, frowned slightly, and told myself, it's probably nothing. So I closed it. I didn't open it. I didn't question it. I didn't follow up. Because at that point, I still believed I had just saved my family. I didn't realize I had just signed my house away. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like something was off, but couldn't prove it? Not enough to act. Not enough to confront. Just enough to sit in the back of your mind and quietly bother you. That's where I was. Because after the money was gone, after the paperwork was signed, after the "you saved us" calls stopped, something changed. And I felt it. I just didn't trust it yet. The first crack. It started with a simple phone call. 3 days after everything was handled, I called my mom. Nothing serious. Just a check-in. Hey, I said, scrolling through emails while holding the phone. Everything go through okay? Mm-hmm, she replied quickly. Yes, everything's handled. Handled. That word again. Too clean. Too final. Good, I said slowly. Did the bank confirm everything? A pause. Not long, but long enough. We're still finalizing some things. I frowned. That's not what you just said. A soft laugh. Oh, you know how these things are. Technicalities. Technicalities. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Mom, I said, more directly now, what exactly did I sign? Silence. Then, Ava, you're overthinking. And just like that, conversation closed, redirected, smoothed over the distance. After that call, things didn't explode. They didn't collapse. They just shifted. Subtly, quietly, but enough to notice. My dad stopped calling regularly. Not completely, just enough that it felt intentional. And when he did call, short conversations, surface level, no mention of money, no mention of the house, nothing real. And Lily changed the most. Suddenly, she was present, everywhere, texting me randomly, reacting to my posts, even calling me once, which she never did. You've been working too much, she said casually during one call. I laughed lightly. I'm fine. You should think about downsizing, she added. Less stress. Downsizing? That word stuck. I like my place, I replied. I'm just saying, she continued almost too casually. You don't really need that much space. I didn't respond right away because it wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Like she'd already decided something. Like my situation had already been evaluated. The visit. About a week later, I went to my parents' house, unplanned. I was driving home past their street, and before I could think, I turned, pulled into the driveway, walked up to the door, knocked. My mom opened it almost immediately. Hey, she said brightly. Too brightly. Not surprised. That was the first thing I noticed. She wasn't surprised to see me. Hi, I said slowly, stepping inside. My dad was in the living room, watching TV. He glanced at me, smiled, then looked back at the screen. No questions, no curiosity, just acknowledgement. Like I was expected, but not important. Where's Lily? I asked. In your room, my mom said. Your room? That phrasing caught me off guard. I walked down the hallway, slower now, more aware. The door was slightly open. I pushed it gently, and there she was, sitting on the bed, surrounded by papers, stacks, organized, highlighted, focused. She looked up, and for just a second, something passed across her face. Recognition. Not surprise. Not guilt. Recognition. Like she knew I'd walk in eventually. Oh, she said. Hey. I glanced at the papers. What's all this? Just helping Mom, she said quickly, gathering a few pages, organizing stuff. Too quick. What kind of stuff? Financial, she said vaguely. You wouldn't be interested. That made me pause. Since when was I not interested in financial things? I stepped closer, and that's when I saw it. Just a glimpse, but enough. My name, typed, formal, followed by an address. My address. My stomach tightened. Can I see that? I asked. Her hand moved instantly, covering the page. It's nothing important. Nothing important. But her posture said otherwise. Protective. Defensive. And that's when my mom's voice cut in. Ava, can you help me in the kitchen? I turned. She was standing in the hallway, watching, waiting. I hesitated, then followed her. The almost truth. In the kitchen, she handed me a glass of water. I didn't take it. Mom, I said, what's going on? Nothing's going on. That's not true. She sighed. Soft. Controlled. Ava, everything is fine. You helped us. Things are stable now. Then why does it feel like I'm the only one who doesn't know something? That hit. I saw it. Just for a second, then it disappeared. You're imagining things, she said. And just like that, conversation over. Again, trying to prove yourself wrong. That night, I sat on my couch, laptop open, staring at my screen, debating. Because part of me knew, and part of me didn't want to. So I checked. Property records. Public database. Simple. I typed in my address, hit search, waited. Loading, and then nothing. Everything still showed under my name. I exhaled slowly. See? I muttered. You're overthinking. But even as I said it, it didn't feel true. Because something was happening. I just couldn't see it yet. The setup. The next day, my mom called. Dinner tomorrow, she said. All of us. All of us. That wording felt deliberate. Okay, I replied. Before hanging up, I heard something. Faint, but clear. Lily's voice in the background. Soft, confident. You'll understand soon. The line went dead. End of part 3 cliffhanger. And that's when it changed. Because for the first time, I stopped telling myself I was imagining things. I stopped trying to explain it away. I stopped ignoring what was right in front of me. Because deep down, I already knew. I just hadn't seen it yet. But the next time I walked up to my front door, and my key didn't work, I wouldn't be guessing anymore. The moment the key didn't turn, everything finally made sense. What would you do if you walked up to your own house and realized you didn't live there anymore? Not because you moved, not because you sold it, but because someone else decided it wasn't yours? That's where everything stopped being subtle. That's where the guessing ended. That's where the truth showed up without asking. The door that didn't open. You've already seen this moment, but now you understand it. I stood there, key in the lock, twisting harder than necessary. Click, nothing. Again, click, still nothing. And that's when I heard it. Laughter, inside. Comfortable, familiar. Like I wasn't missing, like I had already been replaced. Then, the lock turned from the inside. The door opened. And Lily stood there, barefoot, relaxed, at home. Oh, she said, you're back early. That line again. And this time, it hit differently. Because now I understood what it meant. She wasn't surprised. Because in her version of reality, I didn't live there anymore. Walking into something that isn't yours. I stepped inside slowly. Not fully. Just enough. And immediately, everything felt wrong. Not dramatically. Subtly, the couch had shifted slightly. New pillows. A candle burning. Vanilla. I hate vanilla. There were shoes near the door. Not mine. A bag on the chair. Not mine. And then the hallway. My office door. Closed. I never closed it. Not once. That detail, that's what made it real. Because that wasn't accidental. That was intentional. The confrontation begins. Why are you here? I asked. But we both knew that wasn't the real question. She leaned against the doorframe slightly. Casual. We should probably all talk, she said. All talk. Like this was a discussion. Like this hadn't already been decided. Footsteps approached. My parents appeared behind her. Same as before. Same formation. Same silence. And that's when I asked it. Clearly. Directly. Why can't I get into my house? No one rushed to answer. Because they didn't need to. This moment, they'd already prepared for it. My mom stepped forward. calm, controlled. We fixed the paperwork. There it was. Again, the word that had followed me for weeks. And now, it finally landed. What paperwork? I asked. Her expression didn't change. The ownership documents. My chest tightened slightly. Not panic, recognition. What ownership documents? And then she said it. It's Lily's house now. Everything connects. Silence, but not empty. Full. Because in that moment, everything rearranged. The late night call. The numbers that didn't add up. The rushed signatures. The folder. The email I didn't open. The papers in Lily's room. The conversations that ended too quickly. All of it. Locked into place. You used my money, I said slowly, to restructure everything. My mom nodded. Yes. And the documents I signed included the transfer, she finished. Clean. Simple. Like explaining something obvious. The confirmation. I looked at my dad, still avoiding eye contact. Did you know? I asked. A long pause. Then, yes. Just one word. And somehow, that was worse than everything else. Because that meant this wasn't desperation. This wasn't panic. This was agreement. The justification. Lily stepped forward slightly. You weren't using it fully anyway, she said. It makes more sense like this. More sense. To who? I asked. She shrugged. You have a stable job. You can live anywhere. I needed something permanent. Needed. That word again. I paid for this house, I said. You signed it over, she replied. And there it was. The truth. Not hidden. Not softened. Just stated. The shift inside me. And here's the part that matters. I didn't feel shocked. Not anymore. Because shock requires surprise. And deep down, I had already seen this coming. I just didn't want to believe it. Until now. Now, there was nothing left to question. Nothing left to figure out. Just one clear reality. They planned this. And they thought it was over. The moment they misread. You should have told me, I said quietly. My mom's expression softened slightly, but not with guilt. With relief. We knew you'd react emotionally, she said. Emotionally. That word again. And that's when I realized something important. They weren't afraid of hurting me. They were afraid of me stopping them. And now, it was too late. Or at least, that's what they believed. The exit that meant more than anything. I adjusted the grocery bag in my hand, still holding it, still standing near the door. Like I had never fully entered. Okay, I said. That's it. Just one word. Lily frowned. Confused. Okay, she repeated. I nodded. Okay. And then I turned. Walked out. No hesitation. No argument. No reaction. Just left. The real power shift. Because here's what they didn't understand. Silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's timing. The moment that door closed behind me, everything became clear. Not emotionally. Strategically. They thought I was done. They thought I accepted it. They thought that was the end. End of part 4, cliffhanger. But as I walked down that driveway, there was only one thought in my mind. They have no idea what they just started. Because 3 days later, when I came back, I wasn't alone. And this time, I wasn't asking questions. 3 days later, when they opened the door again, 3 days. No calls. No messages. No warnings. Just silence. The kind of silence that makes people uncomfortable. The kind that makes them start asking questions. Because here's the thing. They expected a reaction. A breakdown. An argument. Something emotional they could manage. What they didn't expect was nothing. And that's what made this work. The return, but not the same. When I walked back up that driveway 3 days later, I wasn't the same person who had left. Not emotionally. Not mentally. and definitely not strategically. The house looked identical. Same door, same windows, same quiet stillness. But this time, I wasn't carrying groceries. I wasn't tired. And I wasn't alone. Standing next to me was Daniel Harper, contract attorney. Early 40s. Precise, observant, the kind of person who doesn't speak unless it matters. And next to him, a civil enforcement officer. Not aggressive, not loud, just official. Which, in situations like this, is worse. You ready? Daniel asked quietly. I nodded once. Then I knocked. The door opens and everything shifts. Footsteps. Slower this time. More cautious. The door opened. And there she was. Lily. Same place. Same house. Different energy. Because the moment she saw me, and more importantly, who I was standing with, something in her expression changed. Fast. Tight. Controlled. What's this? She asked. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Daniel stepped forward slightly. Professional. Calm. Lily Reynolds? He asked. She hesitated. Yes. You've been formally served notice regarding a legal dispute involving fraudulent misrepresentation and unlawful property transfer. Silence. Immediate. Heavy. Behind her, my mom appeared. Then, my dad. Same formation. Same people. But this time, no control. The truth clearly stated, logical payoff. Daniel didn't raise his voice. Didn't rush. Didn't dramatize. Because he didn't need to. During the debt consolidation process he began, Ava Reynolds was presented with documents that included a property reassignment clause. My mom stepped forward quickly. That was part of the agreement. Daniel continued, uninterrupted, which was not clearly disclosed and evidence indicates intentional concealment. That word landed. Concealment, not misunderstanding, not confusion. Concealment. I stepped forward slightly. You planned it before I even paid, I said. No one answered. Because they couldn't. The evidence. Daniel opened the folder. Neatly organized. Precise. Email correspondence dated 2 days prior to fund transfer, he said. Internal discussions referencing ownership reassignment. Recorded calls confirming incomplete disclosure of contract terms. My dad finally spoke. Quiet. Almost breaking. We didn't think that she'd question it, Daniel finished. Silence. Again. Because now, everything they had hidden behind complexity was exposed in simplicity. My mom looked at me, really looked this time. Ava, she said, softer now, we're family. That word. Again. The justification. The shield. The excuse. I held her gaze. No anger. No hesitation. Just clarity. That's why I trusted you, I said. And this time, there was no response. Because there wasn't one. The officer stepped forward. Effective immediately, this property is under legal review, he said. Occupancy rights are suspended pending investigation. Lily's composure cracked. What does that mean? She asked quickly. It means, Daniel replied calmly, you don't control this property. My mom's voice sharpened. You can't just do this. We didn't, Daniel said. You did. We're just documenting it. And just like that, everything they thought they secured was gone. What actually happened next, logical plus consequence, continued. Here's what they didn't expect. I had records. Everything. Because of my job. I don't just trust processes. I document them. Every transfer. Every confirmation. Every call. Including the ones where details were intentionally vague. That mattered. Because legally, intent is everything. And they left a trail. A clear one. Within weeks, the property transfer was legally challenged. The signed documents were ruled invalid due to misrepresentation. The clause transferring ownership was deemed unenforceable. My parents were held liable for legal damages. Not emotionally, Not symbolically, legally, precisely, final. And this is the part people don't think about. What happens after? Because actions like that, they don't just disappear. They ripple. Family found out, not from me, from documents, from legal notices, from facts. And suddenly, the narrative changed. My parents weren't victims. They weren't struggling. They weren't misunderstood. They were responsible. Lily, she lost everything she thought she gained. The house, the support, the illusion of stability. She moved into a small apartment, alone. No backup plan this time. My dad stopped calling. Completely. My mom tried a few times, short messages, careful wording, no response. Not out of anger, out of finality. The final return. A month later, I stood inside the house again. My house, legally, completely, quiet, empty. Most of their things were gone, but not everything. A chair slightly out of place. A faint scent of vanilla still lingering. Small traces, proof that something had happened here. I walked through each room slowly, not reclaiming, not restoring, just observing, because it didn't feel the same, and it wasn't supposed to. I stopped at the front door, looked down at the lock, then at the new keys in my hand. Different, secure, certain. I replaced the locks that same day, not out of fear, not out of anger, but because some things, once broken, don't go back to what they were. As the final click settled into place, I paused, not thinking about the money, not even thinking about the house. Just one clear realization. It was never about property. It was about permission, about what they believed I would accept. And they were wrong. I stepped inside, closed the door behind me, and this time, it didn't feel uncertain. It didn't feel taken. It didn't feel temporary. It felt finished. Final line? Some people think betrayal is loud, obvious, explosive, but sometimes it's quiet, careful, signed, one page at a time, until the moment you realize you were never part of the decision, only the solution.
So, would you forgive them or walk away forever after something like this?